MindSnacks, the podcast. 180 ways to see your world differently. Where science, psychology, and spirit stop arguing and start agreeing. No lectures, no preaching. Just one small idea at a time and the space to make it your own. Press play and let's see it differently.
Imagine finding out that the brain circuitry firing when you disagree with your friends is like the exact same circuitry that fires when you're being chased by a predator.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
Right. Our brains literally interpret standing out from the crowd as a physical threat to our survival. And today, we are exploring what it actually costs our biology to be free.
It's such a massive topic.
It really is. In episode 9, we looked at time. In episode 10, we looked at the lessons in difficulty. Today, we land on the natural endpoint of going deeper. What real freedom actually looks like.
And if you happen to be joining us for the first time, welcome. You don't need to have heard those prior conversations to follow along today.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Just as a really quick frame, the book we're discussing, MindSnacks, is this wonderful collection of bite-sized insights pointing at, these universal human truths.
Which makes it the perfect place to land. Freedom is one of those incredibly heavy words, but the way we're exploring it today is, well, it's surprisingly grounded.
I completely agree. But I think we have to start by just throwing out our default definition of that word.
You mean the whole candy store analogy?
Yeah, exactly. When most of us hear the word freedom, you probably picture something like a teenager let loose in a mall with a credit card.
Right, like the ability to buy whatever you want, eat what you want, say whatever pops into your head.
Exactly. But that is a very shallow freedom. And honestly, a lot of us already have more of that specific kind of freedom than we even know what to do with.
Yeah, that's so true.
The deep freedom we're talking about today is different. It is the freedom to actually build a life that reflects who you are, free from inherited scripts and the approval of others.
Which brings us right to the first major obstacle to that deep freedom. We see it perfectly laid out in MindSnacks number 37.
Oh, approval's lore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the book anchors this with a really famous quote from Lao Tzu. He says, "Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner."
Which is such a punchy doorway into the topic.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the book does something much more nuanced with this idea than just telling you to, magically stop caring.
Right, because that's impossible. If we look at the heart of what MindSnacks is actually saying, it points out that we all crave acceptance, especially from our family and our peers.
Because that approval feels like warmth, right? It feels safe.
Exactly. And when we sense rejection, it shakes us so violently that we immediately start bending and reshaping ourselves just to earn that warmth back. The crucial difference the book highlights here is between appreciating approval and depending on it.
So appreciating it is fine.
Yeah, appreciating someone's praise is healthy connection. But depending on it means you're quietly handing your entire sense of worth over to a jury of other people.
I see.
Building self-approval acts like a fortress. Mady has this line that really nails it. He writes, "Real freedom begins when we choose to honor who we are, even when no one is watching or clapping."
Okay, wait, I have to push back on that logically.
Sure, go for it.
Because we're social creatures, right? Isn't caring what people think just normal and healthy? Like, you can't just not care.
You're absolutely right, and caring is deeply human. The book isn't telling us to be sociopaths. It's pointing out that when your self-worth is completely dependent on applause, you're handing away your power.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there's actually soft science that backs this up.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked into Carl Rogers' concept of congruence?
I know he's huge in humanistic psychology, but remind me how he defines congruence.
In plain language, it's basically the alignment between who we feel we are inside and who we present to the world outside.
So closing the gap between the two.
Precisely. Rogers found that when there's a big gap, say you're naturally quiet, but you force yourself to be this loud, hyper-aggressive person just because your job praises it, you experience severe psychological distress.
Oh, wow. So authenticity isn't just some nice idea for a greeting card.
No, it's literally the structural architecture of mental health.
But maintaining that is incredibly difficult because our own biology actively fights us. This actually ties back to what I mentioned at the very beginning about the brain's threat detection system.
Oh, the hard science part.
Yeah, there's fascinating research from the neuroscientist Gregory Burns. He wanted to understand the mechanics of conformity, so he put people inside fMRI scanners to watch what happened when they went against the group.
And what did he find? because peer pressure usually just feels like, I don't know, awkwardness at a party.
Right, but it's way more intense than that. He had participants do simple tasks, but the other people in the room who were actually actors intentionally gave the wrong answers.
Just to see if the real participant would cave.
Exactly. And when the participants stood their ground and went against the group, the fMRI scans showed a massive spike of activity in their amygdala.
Which is the brain's alarm bell.
Yes. The brain literally registers nonconformity as a physical danger. Going against the grain biologically feels like you're under attack.
That's incredible. So standing up for who you are goes against a fierce evolutionary headwind.
Absolutely. And, this relates perfectly to what we see in MindSnacks number 152 about how the personal self and the social self either find balance or one just completely drowns the other out.
But that raises a really unsettling question. If we do stop relying on other people's applause, what happens if we look inward and realize the voice left in our head isn't even ours?
Oh, man. That brings us right to the second major obstacle, the trap of inherited scripts.
Yeah, and we see this in MindSnacks number 117, which is titled Break the Script.
Right. There's that famous Carl Jung quote as the doorway here. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate."
It's a great quote, but the book really gets into the everyday reality of this. Most of us are living on autopilot. We're following rules we never truly chose.
Inherited scripts from our parents, our culture, our socioeconomic background.
Exactly. And the realization of this isn't usually some huge cinematic explosion where you quit your job and run away.
Yeah.
It's a gentle realization that just sort of cracks the old conditioning.
Yeah, Mehdi frames it so well. The book says, awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering that we are free to listen inward and shape our lives from a more honest place.
I love that. Not inventing a new identity, but excavating the original one.
And there's a biological component to this, too. In neuroscience, there's this system called the default mode network.
Oh, right. The part of the brain that's active when we're just zoning out.
Exactly. When you're washing the dishes or staring out a window, your brain is actually highly active, constructing your sense of self. But here's the catch. If the inputs you feed your self-construction are just other people's scripts, the self your brain builds isn't even yours.
Wow. You're literally constructing a stranger in your own mind.
Yeah.
That ties perfectly into what Jean-Paul Sartre called bad faith.
Oh, bad faith. Remind me how he defines that.
It's basically when we pretend we have no choice, when we always do. We hide behind excuses like saying, well, this miserable career is just what's expected of me.
So we use our freedom to deny our freedom.
Exactly. Sartre said existence precedes essence. We exist first, and we create our identity through our choices. We are the authors.
But authorship is terrifying, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Eric Fromm wrote about this in Escape from Freedom. He noted that authorship of our own lives is so scary that we actually hide in conformity. It's safer to let the script drive.
Which makes sense of something else in the book. A brief mention in MindSnacks number 106 notes that right around midlife, we finally start letting go of the roles we built for other people.
Because the pain of the fake role finally outweighs the fear of authorship.
Yeah, okay, but I have to press a real-world objection here.
I figured you might. Let's hear it.
Okay, live on your own terms sounds great on a podcast, but I've got kids, a mortgage, a job I can't just quit. Isn't this just a luxury fantasy for people with endless options?
It's such a valid question. But freedom isn't blowing up your life or quitting your job. It's directional within constraints.
Directional within constraints. What does that look like?
Well, MindSnacks number 169 tackles this. It's called Currency of Freedom. There's a brief quote from Chris Brogan where he says, the goal isn't more money, but living on your terms.
Right.
But the book expands on that beautifully. It says, money and work are just tools to give us options. What we really seek isn't status. It's the room to make choices reflecting our values.
I see.
Yeah, Mehdi writes, what we really seek through money is not status or control, but freedom. The right to build a life that feels true to who we are.
So we're just carving out pockets of autonomy where we can, even within heavy constraints.
Exactly. And self-determination theory backs this up. Autonomy is a biological human need, not a luxury.
It's actually required for us to function properly.
Yeah. And think about dopamine. It flows so much better when we do things for the intrinsic love of them rather than just forcing ourselves for a paycheck.
Right.
We need those pockets of intrinsic choice.
Which is why, in MindSnacks number 130, the book notes how our values become inner boundaries. They protect what matters most within those real-world constraints.
So true. And yet we've talked about all this science, Sartre, Rogers, dopamine. But what's wild is that the great spiritual traditions have been saying the exact same thing for centuries.
Really? Like how?
Well, take the Taoist concept of wu wei. In plain language, it means non-forcing. It's not laziness. It's the freedom of finally stopping the war against your own nature and just operating from your true center.
That sounds exactly like congruence.
It really is. Or the Hindu concept of moksha, which is liberation from the wheel of conditioning and inherited scripts.
Oh, breaking the script.
Exactly. And in Sufism, there's fana, which is the annihilation of the false self, that anxious part of us that constantly needs approval.
Which reminds me of Thomas Merton in the Christian tradition. He talked about that exact shift from the false self to the true self.
Yes. The language changes, but the core truth is identical.
That closes part 3 time. The wound, and now freedom itself. Next episode is the season finale.
It's been quite a journey to get here.
It really has. Notice what just happened. Lao Tzu, Sartre, Carl Rogers, self-determination researchers, Sufi mystics, Thomas Merton, and brain scanners, they all walked into the same room, and they all looked at the same door. The door to a life that actually belongs to us. The door has been there the whole time. The question is whether we are ready to walk through it.
And if you want to explore that door yourself, I highly recommend going back to the pages of MindSnacks, explicitly numbers 37, 117, and 169. And remember, there are 177 more seeds waiting in the book.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one question worth carrying with you. Sit with this for a moment. Think of one place in your life where you are still living according to someone else's script. Someone whose approval you've been chasing, an expectation you've inherited but never questioned, a path you took because it was expected rather than chosen. What would it look like, just for this week, to take one small step toward what you would actually choose? Not for them. Not for the version of yourself that needs to be liked. Just for the person you actually are. What might begin to shift if you trusted that the life you long for is not far away. It is just on the other side of permission you have not yet given yourself.
MindSnacks, the podcast. If something shifted the way you see things today, follow along. There's a new idea waiting in every episode. We'll see you in the next one.